So thank you everyone for coming and giving me your company. It's such a blessing to be amongst people that are striving towards spiritual consciousness, elevating their character. So we'll sing Jaya Madhava, and then we'll sing a few other prayers, and then we'll talk about Lord Chaitanya. Whatever's. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Hey Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari O Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari O Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Hey Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Hey Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Oh Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Hey Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari O Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Hey Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari O Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Hey Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Oh Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe. Jaya Radha Kalachandji Radha Kalachandji Radhe. Jaya Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Radhe. Jaya Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Radhe. So now we'll sing Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Oh Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Dvaita Chandra Jai Koda Bhakta Vrinda. Oh Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Koda Bhakta Vrinda. Oh Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Oh Jai Dvaita Chandra Jai Gauda Bhakta Vrinda. Hey Jai Dvaita Chandra Jai Gauda Bhakta Vrinda. Haribol, 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 Gaur Haribol. Janitai. Anitai Gaur Haribol, 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 Gaura Haribol. Harinama Sankirtana ki Nitai Gaur Premanandi. So Hare Krishna once again. Thank you all for coming. So we'll talk about Lord Chaitanya. How many of you have not heard of Lord Chaitanya? Raise of hands. No, don't be shy. So next week, on the 13th, will be the appearance day of Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya is Krishna, but in hidden form as his devotee. He came as a devotee of Krishna to teach all of us the way to approach the perfection of life. And sometimes he's known as the love avatar, the incarnation of love. He came to taste love of Krishna and to share that with the world. He appeared about a little more than 500 years ago. And from that time on, it's explained that this Hare Krishna movement is an extension of the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. It's a branch of the Lord Chaitanya tree. And just after his leaving the planet, leaving the universe, going back to the spiritual world, this biography of his activities and philosophy and teachings was written by a great soul named Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. So originally it was written in Bengali and translated by our founder, Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. So this book is supremely nectarian. Anybody who wants to relish pleasure on the highest level, I recommend to read this book. If you'd rather just wallow in the material experiences, don't even look at the book, okay? But we're offering the book. We have a few in our storehouse, maybe. But anybody who would like to buy one, you can approach myself or the devotees here at the temple. So it's about, how many volumes is it? I see these books like this size, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 13 books. And it's very ecstatic. Sometimes it's explained as the postgraduate study of spiritual life. The Bhagavad Gita is like the ABCs of getting to know what is what, how we're not the body, but we're the soul, how we're connected to the Supreme Soul. So all of these things were demonstrated by Lord Chaitanya, by his intense desire to share and remind all of us living entities that have come from the spiritual reality, that have come from the spiritual world to the material, samsara, the place of birth and death. Lord Chaitanya has come out of compassion to remind us that we're not temporary material beings, but that we're eternal, blissful, conscious servants of the supreme, eternal, blissful, conscious personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna. So we were listening to class this morning, and the speaker said that when you see Radha Kalachandji, and you see their beauty, and you see them smiling mercifully upon us, then what's the problem, right? We may have had so many problems before entering the temple room. Our mind may have been going this way and that way about life, about this person, this relationship, this self-doubt about our own personality or whatever, whatever been going on. But when we see the beauty and the sweetness of the Lord, then what's the issue? Just like Prabhupada used to tell his devotees when he would ask them to do some service, who knows what I'm thinking? What is the difficulty? So there's no difficulty. There's one phrase in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, I don't know the Bengali, but it says that if one remembers Lord Chaitanya, the most difficult things become very easy. But if we forget Lord Chaitanya, then the most simple things become very complicated, very difficult. So this is also a simple principle that Krishna shares in the Bhagavad Gita. He says, Manmana bhavamad bhakto. Just put your mind on me. Just think of me. It's that simple. Like sometimes we overcomplicate the purpose of life. Whereas Krishna is saying, just think of me. Become my devotee. Offer your obeisances unto me. And I will protect you from all difficulties. Do not fear. So this is what Lord Chaitanya came to teach. When he appeared, it was an eclipse. What kind of eclipse? Lunar? It was a lunar eclipse. So it was about a little more than 500 years ago. And the religious people, or people of all, just the tradition, was that when there was eclipse, they would bathe in a holy river and they would chant, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this vibration is what Lord Chaitanya came to inaugurate. The process of God consciousness and self-realization is different in different yugas, in different ages. And in Kali Yuga, the process for perfection is to congregationally glorify the Lord. Kirtan means to glorify, kirti, to glorify. So the main way to do that is to come together and sing and dance. What is the difficulty? we're as a Krishna conscious society, an institution, where when people come here, they say, okay, what should I do to, get free from anxiety? What should I do to attain spiritual perfection? We say, chant Hare Krishna. If you can't come to the temple, you do it at home. If you can't do it with others, you do it by yourself. If you can't do it out loud, do it in your mind. That this mantra itself is an incarnation of Krishna. The books are incarnations of Krishna. The food, how many of us like prasadam? All of us, right? And it's not just because it's tasty food. It's just like, it's soul food. It's nourishing on the deepest level. It's like if your mother makes your favorite item for your birthday, or just when something is cooked with love, it's deeply satisfying, right? So that's what's the key ingredient. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that if one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a fruit, a flower, water, I will accept it. So this love and devotion is the element that the soul, that each one of us is hungry for. It's like, everybody can eat something just to fill the belly. Even if nowadays it might not even be food. I mean, it looks like food, but they even make fake food. And processed food, canned food, it can sit on on a shelf in a can for years. And it may fill the belly, but it doesn't nourish or satisfy the soul. So this hankering that the soul is wanting is this loving reciprocation. And Lord Chaitanya, from the very birth, when he appeared, like I was saying, it was the full moon, it was the eclipse of the moon. And so the people were chanting. And when he was young, sometimes he would cry, and the only way he would stop crying is if the people would chant Hare Krishna. And then sometimes they would, the girls, older girls would pinch Lord Chaitanya. His name was Nimai. They would pinch him so that he would cry just to get the others to chant. And as he grew to age, grew older, at a certain stage, he traveled all over India, exhibiting very elevated spiritual symptoms of love of God by chanting. And the key ingredient was his intensity and his sincerity of wanting to experience Krishna. And to that degree that he wanted to taste Krishna consciousness, to that degree he was able to give Krishna consciousness. It's explained by my mentor that what comes from the heart touches the heart, right? We're all sentient beings. So what, like I was saying with food, what makes something more relishable, more satisfying, is the quality of the loving offering, right? How it was cooked, the consciousness of how that person wanted to please the other person. So also the quality of our consciousness of how we say things to others, why we say things to others, that will have a total different reaction according to the intention of our consciousness. So Lord Chaitanya's full intent, his full purpose was to experience Krishna. Like at one stage of his life, when he was going to Vrindavan, as we know, Vrindavan is the place where Krishna had his pastimes, had his spiritual activities 5,000 years ago. So it's explained that Lord Chaitanya, he was experiencing love of Godhead to such a degree that the regular activities of eating and sleeping and whatever had to be done with the body just went on naturally. He didn't even think about it. His main absorption was just, where is Krishna? How can I find Krishna? How can I please Krishna? How can I serve Krishna? And he would experience spiritual symptoms of ecstasy. It's explained that, he would cry in happiness, in separation from Krishna. He would dance and sing for hours and hours. And anybody who saw him, just by seeing him, they would get intoxicated, they'd say. Intoxicated with love of Godhead. They would get infused with the same inspiration of spiritual desire that he had. And then when Lord Chaitanya got to Vrindavan, his ecstasies multiplied 1,000-fold. It's explained that he would hug the trees, and the trees and the animals, seeing Lord Chaitanya, would know that he's non-different on a spiritual level, that he's non-different from the source of all material and spiritual worlds, the absolute truth, the cause of all causes, the supreme personality of Godhead. So I'd like to read a little bit. I really implore everybody to read this book. Even if you haven't read the Bhagavad Gita yet, you can get it and, dabble in it, read a little here, read a little there, or just, read the whole thing. I met one person when we were distributing books in Denver, Colorado once. This one student at a university, he had never met a Hare Krishna before, but he read this entire book like 3 times. And he knew all about Lord Chaitanya, all about Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, all about the intricate philosophies of the Vedas. Because it's explained that Lord Chaitanya is the person Bhagavatam. There's the book Bhagavat, the Srimad Bhagavatam, and there's the person Bhagavatam. And Lord Chaitanya is like the walking, living example of what does it mean to be a pure lover of God. And we need both. We read in the book, and we also to see an example before our eyes is very helpful. So Lord Chaitanya came because when Krishna came 5,000 years ago, Krishna, sometimes they say he demanded, Sarvadharman parityaja mamekam sharanam braja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishame masuchaha. That just surrender unto me and I will deliver you from all sinful reactions, do not fear. But at that time many people they couldn't follow it. So Krishna, seeing the trajectory of the souls, not being able to fully embrace his advice, came as his own devotee in the form of Lord Chaitanya. Another name for Lord Chaitanya is Gauranga. And I'm named after Gauranga because his limbs were effulgent, his angas were Gauda. So there's one Swami of ours that when, sometimes we're doing our not silent, but light chanting, just like we do the musical chanting of Hare Krishna, we also chant on beads. And all of us are maybe in the temple room or places and we're chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Gauranga! He will yell Gauranga in the middle of, you know who I'm talking about? Your Guru Dev, right? So, this is also, it's like non-different from saying the Maha Mantra. To say Gauranga, sometimes people that may, for whatever reasons, may not be pious enough or may not have the inclination to say the full Maha Mantra. Like my friends, they used to go up, they used to do the chanting in public places, and they would be chanting Hare Krishna, and then they'd go up to somebody and say, "Excuse me, can you say Gauranga? Can you say Gauranga?" And the person would say Gauranga, and then they would go, Nitai Gauranga. And they would get very enlivened and dance with that person and the person. So that's also, it's explained that the name of the Lord is non-different from the Lord, that all the spiritual potencies of the Supreme source of all beauty, source of all knowledge, source of all love is the holy name. You can say Gauranga, you can say Nityananda, you can say Hare Krishna. That the full personality is present in the vibration of Hare Krishna or Chaitanya or Gauranga. So Lord Chaitanya came to give the process of self-realization, which is to congregationally chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And there's a beautiful section in this Chaitanya Charitamrita here, in the first volume. So I'll read a few verses and the purport, and a few purports. So, this is Adi Leela, chapter 7, text 20 and 21. The characteristics of Krishna are understood to be a storehouse of transcendental love. Although that storehouse of love certainly came with Krishna when he was present, it was sealed. But when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came with his associates of the Panchatattva, they broke the seal and plundered the storehouse to taste transcendental love of Krishna. The more they tasted it, the more their thirst for it grew. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is called Mahavadanya Avatar, because although he is Sri Krishna himself, he is even more favorably disposed to the poor fallen souls than Lord Sri Krishna. When Lord Sri Krishna himself was personally present, he demanded that everyone surrender unto him and promised that he would even give one all protection. But when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to this earth with his associates, he simply distributed transcendental love of Godhead without discrimination. Sri Rupa Goswami therefore could understand that Lord Chaitanya was none other than Sri Krishna himself, for no one but the Supreme Personality of Godhead can distribute confidential love of the Supreme Person. Next verse. The Panchatattva themselves danced again and again, and thus made it easier to drink nectarian love of Godhead. They danced, cried, laughed, and chanted like madmen. In this way they distributed love of Godhead. I'll just read the Bengali. Puna puna piyaya haya maha mata nache chande hase gaya yache mada mata. Purport. People generally cannot understand the actual meaning of chanting and dancing. Describing the Goswamis, Sri Srinivasacharya stated, Krishna kirtana garnanata napado. Not only did Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates demonstrate this chanting and dancing, but the 6 Goswamis also followed in the next generation. The present Krishna consciousness movement follows the same principle, and therefore simply by chanting and dancing, we have received good reception all over the world. It is to be understood, however, that this chanting and dancing do not belong to this material world. They are actually transcendental activities. For the more one engages in chanting and dancing, the more he can taste the nectar of transcendental love of Godhead. I'll just read a few more verses. In distributing love of Godhead, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates did not consider who was a fit candidate and who was not, nor where such distribution should or should not take place. They made no conditions. Wherever they got the opportunity, the members of the Panchatattva distributed love of Godhead. Although the members of the Panchatattva plundered the storehouse of love of Godhead and ate and distributed its contents, there was no scarcity, for this wonderful storehouse is so complete that as the love is distributed, the supply increases hundreds of times. The flood of love of Godhead swelled in all directions, and thus young men, old men, women, and children were all immersed in that inundation. Next verse, last one. The Krishna consciousness movement will inundate the entire world and drown everyone, whether one be a gentleman, a rogue, or even lame, invalid, or blind. So this is the gift of Krishna consciousness, of coming to a temple. We're carrying on this mood, and we want everyone to experience, or we want to experience it more ourselves. There's this analogy that it's explained that, let's say somebody were to ask me, what does honey taste like? And let's say I was a scientist, and I could explain it very elaborately with scientific terminology, and it may do something for the mind of the other person. But what will really give that person an experience is if they just taste it for themselves, right? So that's what spiritual life is meant to be experienced individually. It's not just that I sit up here and I explain something, or that, that it's something we read in a book. But no, we want to experience it for ourselves. And that's what Lord Chaitanya came to share. He experienced it himself, and like these verses were saying in very beautiful, poetic ways, that he... Okay. He plundered the storehouse of love of God and tasted its contents profusely. I love these words. That means it's like a smorgasbord of ecstasy, right? And the more they tasted, the more they wanted to taste. The more we chant and the more we qualitatively do it as an offering of love to Krishna, the more Krishna within the heart reciprocates with his... It's explained that God sits within the heart and knows every inclination of our soul. It's explained just like we may smell a flower because we're walking through a garden, because we're close, we get the drift, we get the fragrance of those flowers. So the Lord within our heart is reciprocating with every inclination of the living it. If we want to forget him, then the Lord gives us that intelligence to think that there's no God, or to different degrees. And if we want to remember him, and if we want to experience that intimate relationship, then the Lord gives us the intelligence, who to meet, how to act, how to cultivate that relationship even further. And Lord Chaitanya has come to give us the easiest process, just like it said here, that this chanting and dancing, that's all that's being asked, and then have some refreshments. Of course, that sometimes people may say, "Oh, there's a big institution, there's so much management, there's so much this, so much maybe even politics, or so much, headache to organize the restaurant bills or the bills of the building, or all of this is going on to facilitate our opportunity to taste love of Godhead by chanting and dancing, and invite others to come and give up our material anxieties. Not that we, become reckless in life, but we don't have to be weighed down when we can chant and dance in love of Godhead more and more. Then these other things become less of an anxiety, less of a weight. So I'd like to open it up for reflections, if people would like to share something they took home from the talk, or something they appreciate about Lord Chaitanya, or philosophical question. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for the way you explained Krishna, the mercy, the transcendental qualities that I'm picking up. But the one thing that I really enjoy about Lord Chaitanya is that he's so merciful. It doesn't matter what your qualifications are. It doesn't matter what your background is, what country you come from, what family you come from. And he doesn't ask for much. Just chant. And it can't get any easier than that. So that attracts me more and more. Even the world is going super crazy. Just the fact that we can take shelter of Lord Chaitanya and just chant, take prasadam, read, have association, that is so key. It means a lot to me.
Oh, thank you
Hare Krishna.
for sharing. Yeah, sometimes it's explained that what's our qualification to receive causeless mercy? What's our qualification to receive a gift from somebody? Just to accept it. The qualification is that you have the open nature to just reach out. If it's physical, reach out your hands and accept it. So the cause is, it's explained that this mercy of Lord Chaitanya, to be given the process of reawakening our love for the supreme lovable Lord, is just that we accept it, that we want it. That we want to reciprocate. There's another, the opposite is called causeless rebelliousness. It seems like it's just for no reason. No, like you say, it's like somebody, one time I used to live in New York City, and there was a Hare Krishna donut company, or it's still there, very gourmet and very delicious donuts. And when it rained, a lot of times the donut shop had many donuts left over, and they called the ashram. They said, we got like 300 donuts just baked, but nobody came to buy them. Would you like them? So we would go with these huge boxes, and I would just go in the New York City, and all these gourmet donuts, cream filled, jelly filled, all these delicious donuts. And then we're trying to give them to people. People like, I mean, it's kind of weird. The New York City people like, well, that could be. But they're just like, no, don't want it. Get out of my face, different things. But it's just, don't want it. So the soul, for whatever reasons, to different degrees, we're like, Krishna within the heart, Lord Chaitanya may be dancing in front of us and saying, please chant, please dance, please associate with devotees and take prasadam. No, don't want to. So yeah, just let us accept the gift. Others? Anybody else would like to share something? Oh, cool.
Could you please tell a story of when the women were praying to Lord Shiva for beautiful husbands, but Nimai was interrupting them?
So when Lord Chaitanya was young, he was very playful. He appeared in Bengal, like I was saying, by the bank of the Ganga, and pious girls would go there and do rituals to pray for a good husband. And Lord Chaitanya would go and interrupt the worship, and even would he say that I want to marry you? Or is that Lord Nityananda? Or it was a little esoteric. But the idea also is that the soul, every one of us is married or has an intimate relationship, loving relationship with the Lord. And that's what Lord Chaitanya was. I'm sure he benedicted them also with other things. You want to tell it more? You might know it better. She's one of our gurus here in the community, and she demonstrates her happiness by coming every day and dancing, like we were saying, dancing and singing with the devotees and sharing her love of Krishna with all of us. So thank you, Raseshri. Others? Anybody else?
Nobody has a question. Can I go ahead, Prabhuji?
Please. You're somebody.
So if we were to summarize all those 13 volumes of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, and if we were to like articulate that in 3 points, what's the lesson that we could take tangibly and apply to our spiritual life from the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu?
Well, I would say that the real bliss, or the real pleasure that we're looking for, is in searching for and finding our relationship on the spiritual level. That first of all, like in the Bhagavatam, one of the first verses is Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Now is the time to inquire into spirit. So first, that's the first step in getting off the bodily concept of life, to start to inquire. So explain that just like, if you have a disease, that if you don't know your disease, then it's your way, far away from getting cured. But like sometimes I say that acknowledging that your disease is 50% of the cure, right? That's some phrase. So acknowledging that, okay, there's something missing in my life, something I need that I'm not experiencing. So that is explained, that we need to inquire into what is the soul, and then further, what is the soul's relationship with the Supreme Soul, and then what are the activities. So to sum it up, I already summed it up. The chanting and dancing, it revives that original awareness of our spiritual relationship with the Source, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kalachandji. Oh yeah. Is anybody, well, if there's no more questions or comments, then I wanted to, Lord Chaitanya, he didn't write anything. He wrote just 8 prayers, and I wanted to sing that together and then read the translation. So it's explained that this Chaitanya Charitamrita was written by Kaviraj Goswami, was written about Lord Chaitanya's activities, but personally Lord Chaitanya only wrote these 8. And just like our friend was saying, what are the 3 things that summarize this? These 8 verses can summarize the whole Siddhanta, the whole truth. So yeah, if everybody would like to, we can try to sing it, and then we'll do the English translation. Cheto darpanamarjanam bhavamahadavagni nirvapanam Shreya kairava chandrika vitaranam vidyavadu jivanam Anandam buddhivardhanam patipadam purnamrita shvadanam Sarvatma Shnapadam Padam Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tacharpita Niyameta Smarane Nakalaha Etajasi tava kripa bhagavan mamapi Durdaiva mejishamiha janananaragaha Trinadapi sanichena Tarodapi sahishnuna Amanina manadena Kirtaniya sada hari Nadanam na janam na sundarim Kavitam va jagadisha kamaye Mama janmani janmaneshware Bhavatad bhakti rahaitaki tvahi Ainanda tanuja kinkadam Patitamam Vishame Bhavambudo Kripaya Tava Pada Pankaja Stitaduli Sajisham Vichintaya Nayanam Galadashudadaya Vadanam Gadgadarud Gira Gira Pulakarnichitam Vapukada Tavanama grahane bhavishati Yugaitam namishena Chakshusha pravishaitam Shunyaitam jagat sarvam Govinda virahe name Ashlishava pararatam pinashtumam Adarshanan marmahatam kurotu va Yata tata va viradhatu lampato Mat prananatastu saevana padaha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious.
O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to the living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting this name. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them.
One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly.
O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth.
O son of Maharaj Nanda, Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet.
O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love, flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on the end of the recitation of your name?
O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a movement to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence.
I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally.
So thank you all for coming and giving your kind attention. So next week we'll have the appearance festival on Thursday the 13th, is it? Is it next week? The week after. The 13th, so we got the build up, you know. Last week, I think they gave a talk about Lord Chaitanya, the week before that too? Okay, because yeah, actually, for us it's like the biggest, you know, the mercies flowing from, like, you know, when Krishna appeared, then Ram appeared before that, and so many, but when Lord Chaitanya, he's like the Mahavadanyaya, the supreme incarnation of love of Godhead that has come. And so relatively short, just 500 years ago. So it's a very special day. If you can't make it, you can do something super special in your own lives and your own day. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hari Bol.
Let's all give His Grace Jaya Gauranga Prabhu a big Hari Bol. Hari Bol.